On this last example, we're going to try and find the actual series trait. So here we're not really finding a sub 0, a sub 1, a sub 2, a sub 3, and B. Instead of doing those 3 or 4 times, we're going to just do it once, but it's going to be a bit tougher because it's in terms of n, not that much difference really. So if I glance at this problem, I know that this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a sub 0, I'm going to divide it by 2, plus the series n equal 1 to infinity of a sub n, the cosine of n pi over p t, plus b sub n, the sine of n pi over pt. So the hard part is pretty much finding a sub n and b sub n. A sub 0 is really simple, and again the formulas are given. In this case, once I figure out p, I'll get rid of those two. So a sub 0, we know that's the integral from negative 2 to positive 2, 1 over, and you notice this is always half of that. You're running from negative 2 to positive 2, that's 4 units. Half of it is 2. Automatically that tells you to put a 2 there and a 2 there. There. Of what? F of t dt. Now, since from negative 2 to 0 it's 0, I don't have to worry about that. I only have to worry about this part. So I'm going to write it out for a sub 0 only. Negative 2 to 0 of 0 dt. Well, that's 0. This is no need to work it out. Plus the integral from 0 to 2 of t dt. That is 1 over 2 times t squared over 2 evaluated from 0 to 2. That is 1/4. And if you put the 2 in, you get an actual 4. So that's a 1. Okay, I got this piece. It's a 1. That part is done. Now comes the bit heavier stuff. A sub n, again, it's going to be 1 over 2, the integral. There's no need to worry about negative 2 to 0 because that's always 0. I'm just going to go from 0 to 2 of t times the cosine of n pi over 2t dt. Well, this requires integration by parts. Let u equal t, du is dt. Let dv equal the cosine of n pi over 2t. If I integrate, v is going to equal the sine of n pi over 2 t, and if you divide by this, 2 over n pi. So this is going to equal 1/2 times u times v, 2 over n pi t, the sine of n pi over 2t, minus the integral of u dv. 2 over n pi is right there, the sine of n pi over 2t dt. I'm working this a bit slowly because it's kind of a big mess, so I don't want to make a mistake because that already happened. That is 1 over 2 times twice over n pi t, the sine of n pi over 2t, minus 2 over n pi times. What do you take a derivative of to get sine negative the cosine of n pi over 2t? And if you divide by n pi over 2, you get 2 over n pi. So a sub n is actually 1/2 2 over n pi t the sine of n pi over 2t plus, multiply those, that is 4 over n pi squared, the cosine of n pi over 2t, and those are evaluated from 0 to 2. So what that would be 1/2. Let's see what happens when we put the 2 in. If I put a 2 right there, the 2's cancel out. The sine of pi is 0. If I put a 2 right there, they cancel out. I will get 4 over n pi squared, the cosine of n pi, okay, very good, minus. If I put the 0 in there, 0 times anything is 0. What happens if I put the 0 there? Isn't that just 4 over n pi squared times 1? Because cosine of 0 is 1. So basically what I'm getting, a sub n is 1 over 2 times I'm gonna take the 4 over n pi squared out of both of those, and what I'm left with is the cosine of n pi minus 1. So notice how this works. This is gonna be 2 over n pi times n pi. So if n is even, how should I write? You know what? It's easier this way. I'm gonna get 0 if n is even. What does that mean? If I put there a 2, that's gonna be a 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. If I put there a 4, cosine of 4 pi is 1 minus 1, that's a 0. And if n is odd, I'm gonna get a negative 1 there. Negative 1 times negative 1, that's negative 2. That will be negative 4 over n pi squared. That's what a sub n equals. Now when I list it out, I'll point those out. And how about b sub n? What color did we use for b sub n? I forgot. B sub n is the purple. Let's go with the purple. B sub n is gonna be, again, the same idea, 1 over 2, the integral we're gonna run 0 to 2 of t, the sine of n pi over 2t dt. That's gonna equal 1/2 times, and let's see how this works. I let u equal t, du is dt, dv equal the sine of n pi over 2t dt. If I integrate, v will equal negative the cosine of n pi over 2 times 2 over n pi. So this is going to be u times v minus the integral of v du. Negative times a negative is a positive. I am going to take I'm going to take out the 2 over n pi, and I'm looking at the cosine of n pi over 2t dt. So I'm getting I'm getting 1 over 2 times negative 2 over n pi t, the cosine of n pi over 2t, plus 2 over n pi times the sine of n pi over 2t. When I divide by the constant, that's multiplying by 2 over n pi, evaluated from 0 to 2. That's going to equal 1 over 2 times negative 2 over n pi t, the cosine of n pi over 2t, plus 4 over n pi squared times the sine of n pi over 2t evaluated from 0 to 2. That is 1/2 times, put the 2 in. 2 times 2 is a 4. The cosine, if you put a 2 there, the 2's cancel out. The cosine of n pi plus, if you put the 2 there, I'm putting the arrow in the wrong, the 2 there, the 2's cancel out, sine of n pi is 0, minus, if you put the 0 in, well, that's an automatic 0. And if you put the 0 there, the sine of 0 is 0. No need to worry about that. So I'm getting b sub n to be what is that? Actually, this cancel 2 of those. I'm getting b sub n to be negative 2 over n pi, the cosine of n pi. The same thing happens. Look, if I look at n being even, if n is even, then what would happen? Cosine of 2 pi is 1, cosine of 4 pi is 1, cosine of 6 pi is 1. What if n is odd? Isn't, if n equal 1, cosine pi is negative 1 times a negative, that's a positive. Cosine of 3 pi is negative 1 times a negative, that's a positive. So there it is. That's what I'll get. And now what? Well, now I want to write what f of t is. And remember what f of t equals. There. F of t equals, we said a sub 0 divided by 2. Now, you really don't have to write the summation because I know students don't like that. It's very challenging for students. Plus the a sub n's. Right? It's the series a sub n, the cosine of n pi over 2, plus b sub n, the sine of n pi over 2. So let me write them out, and again, finding the formula for the summation turns out to be challenging. This book doesn't do that, no problem. We just want the level of you listing few terms. So what's a sub n? We got a sub n to be way up there. We got it to be a 1. So that is 1/2. Hey, done. Plus, can you list me few of these terms? Well, let's see what a sub n is. I'm going to take a sub n, I'm going to list it down here for a minute until I get few terms out of it. So what I want to say a sub 1. So keep in mind how that works. If I put a 1 right there, that's negative 1 times negative 1. A sub 1, right? Here, I'll write them out. The cosine of 1 pi over 2, plus a sub 2, the cosine of 2 pi over 2, plus a sub 3, the cosine of 3 pi over 2. I'm forgetting the t. Maybe one more, just for the heck of it. The cosine of 4 pi over 2t, and the list goes on. So, I'll get to the green in a minute. F of t is 1/2 plus what? A sub 1. If I put a 1 right there, if n is odd, I'll get that value right there. And if n is even, I'll get a 0. So I'm going to get a negative 4 over n and negative 4 over pi times 1 squared the cosine of pi over 2t plus, how about a sub 2? 0 the cosine of 2 pi over 2t. A sub 3 and negative 4 over pi times 3 squared the cosine of 3 pi over 2t. 4 will be 0 and the list goes on. Okay, that's very good. That part is done. How about the b sub n's? Luckily for the b sub n's, they're right there. I don't have to do much work. Plus, I want to say plus b sub 1 the sine of 1 pi over 2t plus b sub 2 the sine of 2 pi over 2t plus b sub 3 the sine of 3 pi over 2t plus b sub 4 the sine of 4 pi over 2t, and the list goes on. Well, let me list a few of these terms. Based on what I see up there for b sub n, let's see if it will fit. That will be perfect. Here we go. So that will be plus what? Plus, if n is odd, so when you say b sub 1, that's odd. That is 2 over n, that's 2 over pi times 1, the sine of 1 pi over 2t, minus 2 over pi times 2, the sine of 2 pi over 2t, odd 3, plus 2 over pi times 3, because that's what n is, the sine of 3 pi over 2t, and maybe one more, minus, because that's even, 2 over pi times 4, the sine of 4 pi over 2t, and the list goes on. So, altogether, this is really what I'm looking for. F of t equals 1/2. I notice here that, and something that really worth mentioning, I could take negative 4 over pi out of those because it's going to be there. So what is left? The cosine of pi over 2t over 1 squared plus the cosine of 3 pi over 2t 1 over 3 squared. They like the number up front. It doesn't really matter. Lovely. So they like to see they like to see it this way. Can you guess what the next number is? That's pretty much what it comes down to. Can you figure out this whole pattern? Alright, it's acting up. That's okay, I'm patient. This is going to be times the cosine of pi over 2t plus 1 over 3 squared the cosine of 3 pi over 2t. If I was to list one more, that would be 1 over 3, 1 over 5 squared the cosine of 5 pi over 2t. Plus, here I notice they all have 2 over pi. So if I take 2 over pi out, I will have 1 over 1 the sine of pi over 2t plus 1 over 2 the sine of 2 pi over 2t, 1 over 3 the sine of 3 pi over 2t, 1 over 4 the sine of 4 pi over 2t plus, and don't forget those alternate. So if I look at the signs, the first one is positive, but did you notice all the evens are negative? Normally you have to write an actual formula for this. This author doesn't push that. Actually, even if you gave me that, that's accepted. If you just list them out as they are. Alright? And as you see, 3 problems took us an hour. So you're going to have 3 of those for the homework, and that's that.